Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us to learn more about the Solarize Summit program. My name is Jess Hoover, and I'm the Climate Action Director for the High Country Conservation Center. We are so excited that our communities are supporting this program for another year, and we're glad you're taking the time to learn more about it. Before I turn the presentation over to Rich Devine from Active Energy Solar, I wanted to give everyone a brief introduction to HC3 and the Solarize Summit program. High Country Conservation Center is Summit County's environmental conservation and sustainability nonprofit. We're your local resource for recycling and composting education, home energy efficiency, sustainable business consulting, water conservation, and community gardening. We also provide zero waste services for large community events like the Frisco Barbecue. In 2018, we brought together stakeholders from across Summit County to develop a climate action plan for our community. As a community dependent on winter recreation, we felt responsible for doing our part to address the climate crisis, and we wanted to set a good example for the millions of visitors we host each year. Our plan sets goals to reduce carbon emissions 50% by 2030 and 80% by 2050. And in these charts, you can see that the majority of our emissions comes from energy use in buildings, particularly from electricity use. So prioritizing energy efficiency and renewable energy are key to meeting our goals. And that's where the Solarize Summit program comes in. We know a lot of locals and businesses are interested in solar, but don't know how to get started. With our climate action partners, we launched the Solarize Summit program last year to provide a streamlined solar process. We hired one installer to work on the program, Active Energy Solar. And in return, Active Energies offers a discount for everyone who installs solar through the program. And because this is a community program, the more people who install solar, the bigger the discount is. In addition, a few local municipalities are pitching in bonus rebates for residents who solarize this year, which makes it a really great time to go solar. So with that, I will introduce Rich from Active Energy Solar. Rich is the owner of Active Energies and will share more information about solar and how the Solarize program works. So Rich, you can take it away.
Thanks, Jess. We are so excited to be participating in Solarize Summit 2020. Last year was a banner example of the pent-up demand for solar in our community. And given the fact that we had such a great response, it made a lot of sense to do it again this year. So we were really excited to be selected as the solar installer again. First, I want to just touch on what we did last year in 2019. And this was a huge success and a huge win for the program, showing that that we can make a difference, even on a very small scale, but every single solar array adds up. So last year, through Solarize Summit, we had 73 people go under contract and had systems installed. The average system was just under 8 kilowatts. And it's hard to put that into context, but we did systems as small as 2.5 kilowatts up to almost 16 kilowatts in size. The average home is about 2,500 square feet and requires a system just under 7 kilowatts. So we did a little over 0.5 megawatt of total solar with a production of over 800,000 kilowatt hours. But those are just numbers and they probably don't mean a whole lot to most folks. When we look at the climate impacts of that installed solar, 965,000 pounds of CO2 was avoided, which is the equivalent of taking 100 cars off the road for a year, every year for the life of these systems. So as you can see, different towns, we had different interest levels. Breckenridge, we installed 23, Frisco, 18, unincorporated Summit County, 27, and Dillon, Silverthorne, there were 5. There were different rebates for the different towns, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the conversation. We had a goal of doing 0.5 megawatt, and with that, Active Energies kicked in a $500 rebate for each homeowner. So we paid out significant amounts of rebates last year, almost $40,000 we gave back to the community for going solar. So the next couple slides show you pictures of systems that are actually installed in Summit County that we did. A variety of different homes, different array layouts. There's lots of unique architecture and roofs. So you'll see that we can do solar on just about any roof, even flat roofs for that matter. The next slide, actually, there's one photo on there that I want to highlight. It's the lower left hand. This is kind of our example system. This house is a 2,500 square foot home. It's a duplex. They needed 22 solar panels, so that's what you see. And that can give folks an idea of what a solar array would look like on your home and in terms of sizing. Next, I want to talk about renewable energy standards. And Colorado is at the forefront in the nation. As just mentioned, our environment is particularly fragile and susceptible to global warming. And the consequences, not only environmentally, but economically as well, can be pretty devastating because we rely on a recreation economy. And if there's no snow, there's no skiing, and that's bad for everybody. So a few years ago, Colorado put together their renewable energy standard, and they committed to being 30% renewable by 2020. We are on track to hit that for this year. And Governor Polis last year announced that he was upping the ante, shall we say, and his goal is to have Colorado be 100% renewable by 2050. Xcel Energy is the electric provider for Summit County. And this kind of gives you an idea from 2017 what their energy mix was. And this is quite shocking to most folks that almost 45% of our power in Summit County comes from coal, at least in 2017, and 28% from natural gas. So we're looking at 72%, 72% of the electricity is from fossil fuels. Now, their goal is to try and get to 100% renewable. They're under their plan, their energy plan for Xcel, their goal is to be 53% renewable by 2026. So a massive reduction in coal, an increase in wind, and taking solar from 3% in 2017 to 13% in 2026. So the questions that we get asked a lot from homeowners is, how does solar work? What does that mean for me? What goes into it? Timing? Do I get to keep the power? Do I need a battery? And so I want to walk through some solar basics for you so that you understand how a system works, what different parts of the system, and then how it works with Xcel. So first I want to talk about power and energy. And this is taking you back to your high school physics class. But power is the ability to do work. And so it's a static number. So to put it in terms of, say, a solar array, if you were to install a 6 kilowatt solar array, it has the ability to produce 6 kilowatts of power. Now, Xcel bills us based on energy, and energy is power over time. So we get billed in kilowatt hours. So if your solar array is 6 kilowatts and it produces at maximum production for an hour, you produce 6 kilowatt hours of power. For reference, a computer uses about 200 watts, so 2/10 of a kilowatt in time. So the next slide actually looks at what makes up a solar panel. This is where I'm going to kind of geek out a little bit. But solar panels are made of silicon wafers. There's two different types of silicon wafers, and then they're sandwiched in glass. What happens is the sun's rays hit them, excites an electron in the silicon, and it creates a current. Now that current goes through wires and then powers your home. And we'll kind of walk through that in the next slide of how solar energy is converted into usable energy in your home. So a solar panel produces something called DC power, or direct current. And to give you an example in your own life, your cell phone uses DC power. So a battery is DC. It only flows one way. Now, the solar panels produce DC power, and that power goes to an inverter, which is mounted either externally on your home or usually in the garage. And that converts the power from DC to AC. AC means alternating current, and that's the power that comes out of the outlets in your home. So when the solar panels are producing, the inverter converts it to power you can use in your home. And if you produce more power than you consume, it actually goes back on the grid, and the grid becomes your battery. Now, unique thing about Colorado is we have a 1-to-1 net metering law, which means if you produce 1 kilowatt hour of energy, you get to keep that 1 kilowatt hour of energy, and the utility tracks that, and then you get to use it in times where you're not producing solar energy. So if your system produces an extra 5 kilowatt hours of energy during the day that you don't consume, your meter spins backwards, and then at night when the sun's not shining, you get to use that power. Now, for reference, other states have much different net metering laws. California, you have to put 4 kilowatt hours of power on the grid to get one back. So you lose 3 kilowatt hours. Hawaii does not have net metering at all. So people use batteries to store it. Because our net metering laws are so strong, we don't often use batteries because it's an extra cost and the utility serves as the battery. So I want to get back to the computer example and talking about what power costs. So a computer, if it uses 0.2 of a kilowatt hour per hour, and you have your computer on for 18 hours a day, and most people just leave it on, and you use it for 360 days a year, our current Xcel Energy rates are about 10.7 cents a kilowatt hour. That computer costs you almost $140 a year to operate. And putting that into larger terms, the average home in America uses 11,000 kilowatt hours a year, or a little less than 1,000 a month, and you're paying about $1,200 a year for power. Now, the great thing about solar is if we can build a system large enough, you won't have that $1,200 in bills per year because you're producing your own energy. So we're going to take a look at your Xcel bill, because this is often Greek to most people. And what does it all mean? There's lots of numbers and lots of different rates. The main important things are the circled area shows that this particular homeowner used 647 kilowatt hours in that month. And the blended cost is 10.7 cents. So their electricity cost of their bill was $69.45. Now, going solar does not mean you will not be paying Xcel. You'll likely still have a gas bill. And also there is a connection charge. So just to be connected to the grid, it's about $15 a month. And that $15 goes towards line maintenance and upgrading systems, things like that. So you'll still have approximately a $15 bill from Xcel, but your variable costs in terms of your power can be drastically reduced. One thing I will say about solar in terms of costs is that most people, if we can offset all of their power, whether it's a finance system or a cash-based system, they pay less, even if they get a loan to do solar, than they would have by Xcel, usually about $5 or $10 a month. One thing that homeowners don't realize, because they always pay their bill, right? There's always an electricity bill. It comes month to month and it fluctuates. But most people don't notice that over time, power costs have increased quite substantially. On average, since 1968, electricity charges have increased by about 4% per year. And so over a 14-year period from 2000 to 2014, electricity prices rose 67% versus inflation being 34%. So almost double that of inflation over the same period. So as you can see, over time, you're just going to pay more and more and more for power. With solar, you can lock in your utility rate and produce your own power. So now we're going to get into what does this mean to me and how do I go solar? So the Solarize program, as Jess talked about earlier, is not only for residential, but it's also for commercial customers. Residential, we have a set price per watt based on the size of your system, and then there's discounts, things like that. Commercial systems are a customized quote because they're typically three-phase power and a little bit more complicated. But we can do, if you're a homeowner or own your own business and own your own commercial property, we can do solar for you in both areas as well. So essentially, what happens? So after today, I'm hoping that every single one of you guys, reaches out to Jess and us at Active Energies and says, I want to learn a little bit more about solar. So assuming that you call today or tomorrow, we'd register you with the with the Solarize program. And then Active Energy Solar and our sales rep, Bo Askew, who lives in Summit County, will reach out to the homeowner and schedule a site visit. The homeowner will need to get their electrical usage, and you can call Xcel or go online and pull that data. And that allows us to properly size the system. So Bo will come out and meet with the homeowner. And I just want to take a step back. Obviously, we're all social distancing. I see a few photos of people, and we're all in our homes. I'm all by myself in our office. I want to make sure everybody knows that we are following social distancing practices. All of our work, or at least most of the work, occurs outside and sometimes in, say, a garage, but we practice social distancing and we want to make sure that everybody's safe. We can do almost everything remotely outside of the site visit and the install. So the site visit is scheduled based on the customer's schedule. Usually it's about 1 to 3 days after we talk to them. And what we do in that site visit is we verify the size of the roof, tilt and which direction it's facing. And then we also look at the electrical system. And the electrical system is important because that tells us how we do the interconnection on the solar side. So the next step in the timeline is approximately 3 to 4 days after the site visit, Active Energy Solar will deliver to the homeowner a guaranteed pricing proposal. So we've done all of the analysis and we built a customized proposal for the homeowner, and that's a guaranteed price. And at that point, the homeowner can say, that was good information, thank you, but no thanks. Or you can say, all right, I want to move forward and this looks good, let's do it. So we have a few folks in our office, and I should say our virtual office now, because everybody except me is working from home. They will put together a contract and the utility paperwork and deliver it to the homeowner. And we do that via DocuSign, so it's secure and it's remote. So the homeowner would sign that paperwork, and High Country Conservation Center would sign a customer up for a home energy audit. Now, the home energy audit's really important. It's the qualifying piece that allows homeowners to secure a rebate through your town or the county, and that can mean up to $1,500 for you. And we'll talk a little bit about what those rebates are available. But last year they went really, really quickly. We had on average in the first 2 months of the program, 20 people sign up for solar or reach out to us. And then in the last month, we actually had almost 50 people reach out. So don't procrastinate, do it early, do it often, and secure the rebate that's available. So we do both cash and finance systems. And what I'll say about cash is pretty easy. We ask for a 50% deposit, allows us to buy the materials and do the installation, and then you don't get a final bill until your system is on and producing power. From a finance perspective, we actually have Mickey in our office. She will work with the homeowner to walk them through the financing process. There's several different loan options, whether it's a home equity line of credit or working through your local bank, or even a subsidized program through the state. The Colorado Energy Office offers a subsidized program with low fees. So the next step in the process is after we've worked out the contracts, we immediately start on the design. And I have to take a step back. I forgot to mention the color coding you see at the bottom. So the design submittal goes to the county or town of Breckenridge or town of Frisco for getting permits. And we also submit to Xcel for their approval. What's required in Summit County is structural and electrical stamps. And we have structural and electrical engineers that review the plans and make sure everything is up to par. Once the permit is submitted, depending on jurisdiction, our average time to get a permit approval, which means we can start construction, is about 3 to 4 weeks. Typically during that time, the home energy audit would take place. Now, we know we've got social distancing in place, and so that's a little bit up in the air, and hopefully everything kind of dies down. But we and High Country Conservation Center will work with you and the energy auditors to make sure that it's safe. If we have to delay a little while, we'll have to delay, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we're following those things. We tentatively put people on the calendar about 6 weeks out from permit submittal. So And I just got a message from Jess letting me know that
Sorry,
the
Rich.
energy auditors actually, I guess, can do it
Sorry.
right now because they
No,
don't have to
sorry.
interact. Oh, sorry.
I was trying to respond to someone who sent me a question. I
Oh, sorry,
apologize.
Jess. Okay, sorry. So essentially, we schedule the installation about 6 weeks from when the contract and the design permit is submitted. Installation typically takes about 1 to 3 days. Right now, we're running smaller crews for the COVID-19. Normally, we run 6 to 8 person crews. Now we're running 2 and 3 person crews. And so installation is probably going to take 2 to 3 days through this process, which is still very quick. Once the installation is done, we get it inspected. And so we call it into the county or the town and they inspect it. Once it's signed off and approved, we submit that approval paperwork to Xcel. And Xcel will come out and set the meter. Last year, Xcel averaged about 4 weeks for plugging in the PV meter, which means that your system could go live at that point. The challenge here, and this is important to note from a homeowner, Xcel doesn't reach out to us, the installer, to let us know that they've completed this work. They will either leave a door hanger or they will send you an email if you have your email attached to your Xcel account, letting you know that it's been set. And so it's the responsibility of the homeowner to call Active Energies or emails and say, all right, the meter's set, we're ready to go. We will send somebody out to commission the system, run it through its paces, and then we'll do a final walkthrough where we give you your final invoice. We'll give you a training on how the system works and everything that goes into it. We'll provide you with the documentation and the guidance on how to submit for your federal tax credit and the rebates with High Country Conservation Center and the towns. And then you're solar powered. So sorry, a little bit long-winded, but I wanted to make sure that we went through all of it. So the next part is the money part, right? Everybody wants to know how much does it cost? Well, what I can tell you is these are the local rebates that have been approved by the jurisdiction. So Breckenridge has approved 15 rebates at $1,500 per customer. And as you saw from last year, Breckenridge had 23 customers sign up. So not everybody's going to get a rebate if we have 23 people. So it's important to do it early. Frisco has 25 $1,500 rebates, and unincorporated Summit County has $25 $1,500 rebates. So on the bottom is what Active Energies is willing to give back to homeowners. And so last year we had a goal of 0.5 megawatt. This year we've doubled our goal. And if we get to that goal, everybody will get a check for $500 as long as it's not more than 2.5% of the system price. But we're hoping to get to 1 megawatt and double our installation, installed solar in 2020. And with your guys' help, we can get there. The next piece talks about the federal tax credit. And this is a unique it's actually a credit. It's treated like cash, as opposed to a deduction like making a donation to the thrifty shop or something like that, where you take it off of your income. This is actually a deduction off of taxes owed. So say, for example, your solar array costs $10,000. Your federal tax credit would be $2,600 from the federal government. Assuming that you owe the government $3,000 in taxes, you deduct the $2,600, which means instead of owing $3,000, you'd only owe $400 in federal taxes. Pretty good deal. They're basically paying for more than a quarter of your solar array. So we're going to go through some financials. And as you notice, there's a picture of the system that I pointed out earlier. This is a 2,500 square foot home. They got a system that was a little under 7 kilowatts. They offset 110% of their electricity usage. So that's what the system looks like. The cost of the system is a little more than $23,000. If you get a Solarize rebate, $1,500 comes off of that, and then the federal tax credit would be just under $6,000. So the total cost of the solar array would be $16,000 and change. Now, I want to reiterate that the rebate is dependent on your location. As you saw, if you live in Breckenridge, Frisco, or unincorporated Summit County, you can qualify if you get in early on the $1,500 rebates. So what does this mean for my home, right? What does solar add to it? And I'll give you an example in the construction world. Say you were going to remodel your kitchen and it cost $50,000 to do a light remodel. In terms of home selling price, as long as you're not in a deed restricted home, the likelihood is you're only going to get about $30,000 in added home value for a $50,000 home improvement. The difference with solar is that it's pretty much dollar for dollar, and this has been validated by multiple university studies. There's actually a study published by Zillow that showed that homes with solar sold 30% faster and at a 4% premium on the sales price. Now, granted, if you live in a deed restricted home, there are some different rules that apply. So if you do live in a deed restricted home, I'd recommend that you reach out to your town or the county, depending on where you live, to ask about how this can affect your future sales price of your home. The next slide actually talks about what you'll see from a monitoring. Everybody will get internet monitoring on their system. This is that same home, and it was a snapshot taken on Saturday of their production, and I showed what they produced in February. And despite the fact that we got snow in February, you can still see that they did produce power. So you can produce power in the summer, in the winter, and the likelihood is you're going to produce a lot more power in the summer. And this system was installed and turned on by Xcel in late November last year. And so they got a little production at the end of the year in blue, and then they're starting the year off strong and will produce a heck of a lot more power through the summer. The nice thing to reiterate about the net metering is that when you produce a ton of power in April, May, June, July, August, and September, it'll make up for the power that's lost in the winter when it's snowing and we don't have as many sunlight hours. The next shows you, the next slide actually looks at the modules that we use. So this is an all black module. It's made in Seattle, Washington. It's made by Silfab Solar. It's a Canadian company and they have manufacturing in Canada and the US. So the panels that we buy are built in Seattle and then just north of there in Bellingham. And the other manufacturer that we use is Helene, and they manufacture their modules in northern Minnesota. So they've got a great warranty in terms of manufacturer, from quality defects, and then a 25-year power warranty. So they're guaranteed to produce 82% of original power at the end of their life cycle, which is solar panels can run for a lot more than 25 years, but that's what their warranty goes. So that's about the end of our slides. Jess is probably going to open it up for questions and comments. But what I would reiterate is if you are interested, there's no cost to anything until you sign a contract or go through financing in that regard. So even the financing is no money out of pocket. But if you are interested, we'll perform a free site survey, free analysis, and provide a free proposal. To do that, there's a web link there on the bottom of the page. You can also just Google High Country Conservation Center, and there's a link on the front page of their website. And if you have any questions, you can either email Jess or you can email us at our info@activeenergies.com email address. Jess, I'm wrapped up.
Great. Thanks, Rich. We do have plenty of time for your questions, so please feel free to type a question in the chat box, or you can also unmute yourself by clicking your microphone icon on your screen. While you all are thinking of questions, I had a few come through chat while Rich was talking, and I'll ask one to get him started as well. So, Rich, I am wondering, with finances being tight for some folks right now, can you talk a little bit more about the financing program? How many people financed last year? How much money do they have to put down? And what does that look like on their Excel bills then too?
Sure. So last year, 73 people installed solar. About 85% of those people did a financed system. So they went out and got a loan. And there's multiple ways to get loans. You have a home equity line of credit. That's probably the cheapest in terms of fees and things like that. And then there are, like I said, there's a subsidized program with the state, and we can help you figure that out. So assuming that a homeowner has a $100 electricity bill, $15 of that is their connection charge, so that will remain. And then you've got $85 in electricity costs. The average homeowner through the Solarize Summit program, I believe that their loans were about 3.5% to 4.5% over a 20-year term. They were paying about $80 in a solar loan. So between the $80 on the loan and the $15 connection charge, they were saving $5 a month on their Xcel bill. So with no money out of pocket, they were saving money from the day the system was turned on.
Great, thank you. Another question that someone typed in was, how soon, given the current state of stay at home, could Active Energies come for a site visit? And can people even make an appointment now without knowing when social distancing will be over?
That's a great question. First and foremost, we are concerned about your safety and the safety of our employees. Because the site visit occurs mainly outside, and what I mean by that is we'll get up on the roof and take measurements. There's no social interaction there. And a lot of times the electrical panels on the exterior of the house. If it's not on the exterior of the house, it's usually in the garage, and they will, and we can just take a look at it, take some pictures. The site visit usually takes no more than about 30 minutes to accomplish, to validate what we can use with our software that we tag into Google Earth. But yeah, so we maintain social distancing. Our folks that come out and do the site visits wear gloves and masks, and we are very concerned about everybody's health. Hopefully that answers the question, Jess. And I'm sorry for timing. I'd have to ask Bo, but I'm assuming he could probably do site visits starting tomorrow. When I looked at his schedule, he's nodding and giving me the thumbs up in the window here.
Great, thank you. Another question, and that I can answer, could we still be qualified for the county or town rebates if we go through a different provider, or does it have to be Solarize Summit? It would have to get the $1,500 Solarize Summit rebate plus the group rebate at the end of the program. You would have to go through the Solarize Summit program. If you choose to install solar with a different provider, you would be eligible to receive a rebate from HC3 through the Energy Smart Colorado program. You would have to have a home energy audit first to qualify you for that, and those rebates are not as much money. So going through Solarize Summit, you would get the most rebate money back for you. Rich, someone else asked, how does solar affect a gas bill?
Well, it usually doesn't affect the gas bill, because if you're heating with gas, you're still going to be heating with gas. What you can do and we do this with a lot of builders and folks who are remodeling their homes, if you want to affect and kind of get off gas, I know there are programs, and I'm sure that Jess and her team can work with you guys, but we do have some homeowners that convert to electric heat. So instead of forced air gas, they'll switch to forced air electric, or they have gas-fired boilers. You can switch those to electric. That's a little outside of the scope of Solarize Summit, but we have a lot of experience in that and probably assist more than 24 homeowners a year into some sort of electrification. So we're very experienced in that.
And can you do a ground mount based array or only roof installed?
We do both. So the challenges around ground mounts is sometimes you run into HOA restrictions, and an HOA in Colorado cannot deny rooftop solar. If you cannot put it on the roof, and you have ground available, we will work with you. I think we did one ground mount with Solarize Summit last year, and we do probably, I don't know, a dozen or more ground mount systems every year.
Thank you.
I saw somebody ask a question about string inverters or microinverters. We prefer, as our company, we install almost probably 99% of the time, we use SolarEdge string inverters with optimizers. They have the same benefit from a panel level optimization. So if one panel is shaded, the other one can operate at full power. We just find in our climate and over the thousands of installs that we've done, we just have much better reliability with Solar Edge. Plus, their monitoring and that sort of aspect of it, we find just much more user friendly. So we can do microinverters, and we have done. I think we did 3 microinverter systems last year within Solarize Summit on unique kind of one-off situations, but mainly it's Solar Edge and string inverters with optimization.
Thank you. Another question, kind of asking for clarification about net metering. So if
Yep.
your solar system produces more kilowatt hours than you use, and you sell the energy back to the utility company, is it worth installing more panels than needed to make money selling energy back to Xcel?
So that's a complicated question and answer in a couple ways. So as a company, our goal is to install solar at about 110 to 115% of current consumption. And the reason for this is a solar panel produces at its maximum in year 1. The way that their warranties work and the way that degradation of the panel. So let me take a step back. If you have a car with a black interior and a black dash pad, over 10-year period of time, that dash pad's going to turn gray because the sun is pretty abusive to most things. So the panels tend to lose efficiency over time. And so in the first year, you lose about 3%, and then it's a linear reduction of about 0.5% per year. So at the end of 25 years, your system will produce roughly 80 to 85% of what it did originally. So that's why if we install a system that is 110 or 115%, that extra power from year to year where you're overproducing with Xcel can roll over into the next year. You can bank that and pull it forward. And the idea is if your consumption does not increase and stays flat, you shouldn't have a power bill for 20 years if you oversize your system a little bit. That answer the question?
I'll let him chime in the chat box and let me know.
Okay.
Who owns the system at the end of the contract? Who is responsible for maintaining the system, and is there a fee for the monitoring subscription?
Great questions. So you own your solar array. If you pay cash, you own it right away. If you get a loan, once your loan is paid off, you own it. We include monitoring for free. So it includes the communication device. And as long as it's plugged into your home internet, the monitoring doesn't cost you anything. We provide a 1-year free of charge maintenance service for everybody's system. So if there's any issues or we need to do an on-site visit, it doesn't cost anything for the first year. About 80 to 90% of any issues that pop up, and let me take a step back, we actually do provide passive monitoring in our office. So we look at all the systems that we install. So if we see a problem, we'll often call a homeowner before they realize there's a problem. If it is a warranty issue, like say a solar panel goes bad or an optimizer or the inverter goes out, they're covered under warranty. Inverters have a 12-year warranty, optimizers 25, and the panels have a 25-year production warranty. We will replace those under manufacturer's warranty, and it won't cost anything to the homeowner because the manufacturers will pay us for the service call.
Great. Can you talk about snow covering arrays in the wintertime? Does it melt off easily, or can it or should it be removed by the homeowner?
Great question. So if there is snow covering the panels, they're not absorbing light. If you have a light snow day of say like a half an inch, you'll get a little bit of radiation through the panels. And one of the reasons why we install all black panels is black absorbs a lot of heat and light, and they tend to melt the snow or the snow sloughs off. It also depends on the tilt of your roof. So if your roof is relatively flat, if you see my hand here, if your roof is relatively flat, snow is going to stay on it during the winter. Once we get above about 26 degrees tilt on the roof, the snow will slide off given sun. So when I showed that slide of the production, you saw that there were some days where the production was 0, and then slowly over the next few days, production increased as the snow melted off the panels. And that roof was a 26-degree tilt. just for reference on that system. And you asked about the person asked about clearing the panels. If you want to, you can clear them. It can be dangerous on a roof in snow, so we don't recommend it. What we do recommend is if you have, say, a single story home or a lower roof, they do sell extendable roof rakes, like plastic roof rakes, and you can kind of pull the snow off of the panels if desired.
Rich, what is the efficiency of the panels you're installing?
The panel efficiency that we're installing is about 18.2%. And what that means is, and this is how you compare panels apples to apples, is how much energy is produced in a square meter. So they produce 18.2% power per square meter. So the most powerful energy dense panels in the world are about 22% efficient. So these are a top of the line panel. They're not quite as efficient, and we can use more efficient panels, and that would be a custom quote. We had a few customers upgrade to a higher efficiency panel, but we selected this manufacturer because A, they've got a fantastic warranty, B, the efficiency is very, very good, and C, they're at a price point that makes it just really economically beneficial to a customer. We installed about 1.5 megawatts last year across, our Colorado service area of these particular panels. And if you guys want to see what they look like, right over my shoulder, that panel right there is what we're installing on your house, where my finger is. So I'm sitting in our office. We've got them mounted on the wall.
So another question that came in is, with the rapid improvement in solar panel efficiency, what is the advantage of waiting for further improvements? If we install now, what happens in 10 years when efficiency has dropped, the newer panels and/or inverters are much improved?
It's kind of a misnomer. Manufacturers tout a number. So for those of you who remember 31 flavors, it was like 25 and 27, and they were going back and forth, and they finally stopped at 31. So solar panels, 5 years ago, we were installing solar panels at a maximum of about 250 to 275 watts. Now an entry-level solar panel is 290 to 300 watts, and the top end is about 370 watts. Now, the difference in the panels, efficiency isn't really changing that much. And how module manufacturers are increasing the wattage on the panels is the panels are actually getting bigger. So we used to install a panel from a manufacturer that was 300 watts, and it was 40 inches by 65 inches. This year, they announced that they were launching a 320 and a 330 watt panel. That panel is now 41 inches wide by 67 inches tall. So they increased the surface area by about 10% to get, 10% more power out of the modules. So it's a bit of a misnomer. The efficiency is generally the same at 18 to 19% on kind of your standard and premium panels. But the size of the panel is going up. So it's something that people say, oh, well, this is a 340 watt panel, but actually the efficiency is equivalent to a panel that's 300 watts. It's about how much surface area you have on your roof to install.
Great. Someone else asked if this is the last year for the tax credit at 26%. Yes, it is. So last year it was 30, and for 2020 it declined to 26. Next year it will be 22, and then it goes away unless Congress decides to maintain them over the long term.
And just an update on that, Congress has tried to pass through the extension of the tax credit, and the current administration has denied it every step of the way and said, we will not do this. So unless something changes at the top, the likelihood is in 2021 will be the last year for the federal tax credit on solar.
Rich, someone else asked if the warranty on the different system components will be transferable to a new homeowner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we maintain the serviceability of the warranties, and if the system is sold, the warranty follows the equipment. Another thing to note is if a customer wants to extend the warranty on, say, the inverters have a 12-year warranty. And if anything fails, they usually fail within the first 3 years. But you can extend the inverter warranty up to 25 years. And I think it costs an extra $200 or $300 from the manufacturer. And you can do that anytime in the first 2 years of installation.
Thank you. Another question is someone needs to replace their roof, and so they're wondering how the solar works with the roof replacement.
I would say do the roof at the same time, because we can work. We did that, I think, twice last year in Solarize Summit. People were getting roof replacements. It's just a different mounting process. So we would actually mount there's mounting feet, and then there's rail, and then the panels sit on top of it. So as opposed to putting the feet on top of the new roof, they would actually go like embed underneath the roof surface. So they would be waterproofed in upon installation of your new roof. So they tear off the roof, put a new underlayment on, we come in, install the feet, the roofer comes in, basically at the same time, and installs the new roof, and then we finish out the solar installation. What I will say on existing roofs, because people always ask, is there any chance of the solar array damaging my roof? How does it affect the life cycle? Solar will actually make a roof last a little bit longer, because we're putting solar on the areas that get most hit by the sun. So it'll actually likely prolong the roof. And we've been installing since 2006, and we've done several thousand installations. And knock on wood, we have yet to have a roof leak because of a solar installation. We use certified materials that are made for the purpose of solar.
Great. Can you talk a little bit how solar might work with someone who has an electric car or is thinking about getting one?
Absolutely. Well, as someone who owns 3 electric cars, we have 3 for work, and I take one home and plug it in every evening. The inverters that we use, SolarEdge inverters, there is an option to add an EV charging cable to them. And what that does is 2 things. You charge directly from the inverter on the AC side, and you don't have to spend money on a separate car charger and extra electrical work, because that electrical work is already being done, and we just plug it into the inverter and you can charge your car, and it charges at a level 2 rate. So it's a 40 amp charging. My car charges at about 18 and a half to 19 and a half miles per hour when it's plugged in. We have 3 Chevy Volts in our solar fleet, and it takes about 2.5 to 3 hours to charge our cars from 0 to 50 miles.
One more question that just came in, and someone asks, their roof faces east and west, not south. Will that work?
Absolutely. We can even install solar on the north side. You just don't get very good production. So to give you guys some hard numbers, if your solar array produces at 100% facing due south at an ideal angle, if that angle is shifted to due east, your solar array would produce about 91% of ideal. And if it's facing due west, it produces at about 86, 87% of ideal. So essentially that means if you're facing east, you may need to add 1 panel. If you're facing due west, you may need to add 2 panels to get the equivalent production of a system that faces due south.
Okay. We do have a few more minutes left. So if there are any other lingering questions, I encourage you to type them in. And if you think of something after the fact, as Rich mentioned, you're more than welcome to shoot an email to either his staff, which is the info@activeenergies.com, or you're welcome to reach out to me too, jess@highcountryconservation.org. And
I just want to say from Active Energies, we are local. My wife and I own the company. We employ local people, and we're just so happy to be a part of this again this year.
Thanks. So Rich and I will stay on the line in case anyone has other questions that they want to ask us. Other than that, we can conclude the webinar. And Yeah, if you're interested and want to learn more, sign up for that free site assessment, and we will post the recording on our website later. So, like I said, we'll hang out for a few more minutes, but that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your interest and time.